friends. I think you guys have discovered the fountain of youth. You don't look like you've aged at all. 5 years since I retired from Stanford and also from Rotary. Might have been a mistake not to keep coming to Rotary. I thought it would give me the opportunity to run a 5K every Friday morning. And it did give me the opportunity to run a 5K. I've never yet taken the opportunity. But it's definitely there. How many of you are procrastinators? Virtually all of them. Virtually all of them. A couple of you out there claim not to. Well, procrastinators get a bad press these days. If you read the popular press and various pop psychology books, you can find out that procrastinators are really a carbuncle on the face of the earth. There was an article in Psychology Today about 10 things procrastinators should know about themselves. And these were the 10 most unpleasant things that you can imagine, right? You drink too much, you put a lot of stress on yourselves and others, it hurts your health, you're unproductive, it's bad for the national economy, you probably caused the recession. But as a procrastinator, I don't think this is quite right. I think if you went back through history and you took all the things procrastinators have done, all the novels that people wrote while they were supposed to be doing their taxes, all the inventions and all the poetry and all the drama and all the businesses people started when they were supposed to be working for someone else, all the products of procrastination, our culture would be ever so much less rich. I'm sure the wheel was invented by somebody who was supposed to be dragging something. So I defend procrastinators, not all procrastinators, but the way this happened was back about 1995. I was feeling very bad about myself. I had a big pile of papers to grade, and maybe an NSF proposal to referee, those are painful, and a memo for the dean and stuff like that. And I wasn't doing any of it. I knew that's what I should be doing. That would be the best use of my time, but that wasn't what I was doing. And I felt very bad about it. And I had to work for it. I'm a procrastinator. But then something funny struck me. At Stanford, where I worked, I was known as a guy that gets a lot done. People came to me, put me on committees. How could I be a go-to guy at Stanford, a guy that gets a lot done, if I'm a complete slug? Matter of fact, how could I even be at Stanford? Certainly not smart enough to get in as a student. I wouldn't have come close as either an undergraduate or a graduate student, but having kind of snuck back in by the back door as a faculty member, I managed to stay there. It wasn't because I was brilliant, and even my good looks didn't help all that. Because I got a lot done. And most people didn't know it wasn't. The articles I published weren't exactly the ones I agreed to write. And I realized I was what I call a structured procrastinator. I get a lot done. I can do anything, as long as it's a way of not doing what I'm supposed to do. And that's the essence of structured procrastination. And I put that in a little essay, and an old friend of Pat and I, Tony Bursiaga, maybe some others here, and another fellow, Bob Byers, sent it off to the Chronicle of Higher Education. They published it, and then this Journal of Improbable Research, which is the same guy that eventually gave him the Ig Nobel Prize, published it, and then the net came along, so in a couple of years I put it up on the net, and I began, much to my surprise, to get all kinds of email. Now, as Pat mentioned, my work at philosophy has had a tremendous impact on the world. Probably, there have been lukewarm reviews in some of the least read journals in the world. But this thing, all of a sudden, people really enthusiastic about it. Here's an example. Dear John, your essay on structured procrastination just changed my life. Already I feel better about myself. I have accomplished thousands of tasks over the past few months, all the while feeling terrible about the fact that they weren't the really important ones that sat above them on the priority list. But now I begin to find the cumulonimbus clouds of guilt and shame above me are lifted. Thank you. See, but stuff from my philosophy work. Okay. My favorite was from a woman who said that she'd been a procrastinator all her life. Being a procrastinator had made her miserable, she said, in large part because her brother was constantly critical of her for having this character flaw. Reading my essay, she said, allowed her to hold her head up and realize she's a valuable human being who accomplishes a great deal in spite of being a procrastinator. After reading it, she said, for the first time in her life, she had the courage to tell her brother to shut up and get lost. By the way, she added, I am 72 years old. Which, at the time I got the email, seemed quite old. Now regarded as the bloom of second youth. As Pat mentioned, I got this Ig Nobel Prize. She didn't tell the story I like to tell, which is that Alfred Nobel, who created the Nobel Prize, had a younger brother, Iggy, with less money but a better sense of humor. But no, it is the Ig Nobel Prize. It's quite a ceremony at Harvard. They put on a comic opera. They have a little girl dressed up in a huge pinafore that shouts at you if you go over exactly 1 minute given to you for your acceptance speech. I was sitting next to the mayor of Vilnius in Latvia, and he was there because of his invention of a new method of keeping double parking to a minimum in Vilnius, which was he would have a tank from the army go over the car and then have it towed away. This has gotten a lot of publicity. In truth, it turned out he just had somebody park an old junk car and had the local TV videotape the tank going over and being towed away and announce that what would happen. But that was so anyway, a good time was had by all, and this, I wrote this book, and I actually been touring with this book. You know, you write a philosophy book, but bookstores don't ask you to come to the talk for some reason. But this one I've been to Atlanta and all over the South. There seems to be a lot of good independent bookstores in the South. Up in San Francisco with the East Bay and Portland. And I really look forward to this tour. I thought, wow, this is going to be something unique in my life. But do you remember Spinal Tap? It was more like the Spinal Tap tour than the Magic Mystery Tour or the Rolling Stones last tour. You know, some of these bookstores would be 3 people. One, there was 200 people. Some there would be 3 people, 5 people. But you realize that what you're mainly doing is making a personal connection with the bookstore manager who would keep your book. That must be the only reason the publisher would pay for your things. So I learned something about that. And oddly enough, our independent bookstores throughout the land seem to be doing pretty well. We think of Amazon as killing off the bookstores, but it mainly seems to kill off Borders, giving Barnes & Noble a good run for its money. But the independent bookstores, as long as they can set themselves up as kind of destinations, place you go to get a cup of coffee and roll and talk about books, seem to be doing okay. Almost all of them mentioned a Borders big box store going out of business around them fairly recently, and they seem quite happy about it. Now, a lot of people ask me about procrastination and the internet, procrastination and the computer. The computer is both a boon and a danger to the procrastination, to the structured procrastination. It's a boon because the whole meaning of deadline has changed. Early in my career, since the product of my labors is almost always something written, if I had a deadline, Friday it had to be to a publisher in the East or an editor in the East. I had to get it into the mail by Monday. Then FedEx came along, and the meaning of deadline changed. If it had to be there Friday, I had to get it in by 4 o'clock Thursday. Now, if it has to be there Friday at noon, I have to hit the send button Friday at noon. And then it's there. So that's a great thing with procrastination. If you're on the East Coast, sending something to the West Coast, you can be 3 hours after the deadline. And it gets there plenty of time. working on a computer offers lots of temptations. Sit down in the morning to do your email, and this is a dangerous time for procrastination. Some correspondents helpfully embed links to pertinent websites in their email, and following these links can be something of a rabbit hole. You can end up spending hours investigating websites, jumping from one to another, and then suddenly discover that the sun has set and the day is over. Sometimes this pays unexpected dividends. You develop little pools of expertise, perhaps about the sort of metal roofing that is available for bars. If one has a bar, they don't. Or the history of Tajikistan. These pools of expertise occasionally prove useful in conversation or when working a crossword puzzle. But it's easy to lose an hour or two, or a day or two, procrastinating without having much to show. Surfing from irrelevant link to even more irrelevant link is a bit like watching junk TV. It's very hard to stop watching junk TV, simply relying on willpower. I've spent the better part of an hour watching